from the very beginning itself. So this is what I would like to be. I'd like to speak. That is what is there in the dairy value chain in our country. With I will show some of the scenario with respect to Tamil Nadu also and its scope for the benefit of all of us. First of all, let me put why this sector is so important for India because see, we have the onerous responsibility of providing food and nutrition to about 1.44 billion. Now it is about 1.39 billion country's population. We are always at the pressure of providing food and nutrition to the huge population of our country, and also even 1.62 billion. It is expected to rise by 2050. It is not possible only from agriculture sector, that is from farming sector, crop sector, because 80% of the farmers are marginal and small and their land is fragmented. Apart from that, 40% of them are most vulnerable, marginalized, food insecure in terms of resources and its and their economic status. Apart from that, the farms are also diverse. We have all kinds of system in our country. See, agroclimatically speaking, we are classified into 110 micro agroclimatic zones, broadly covered under 5 agro ecosystem, starting from hill system to island ecosystem, from where I started my career. And on top of it, about close to two-thirds, 57 to 60% of the net cultivable area is rainfed. And we are facing other problems also like depleting water table, poor soil health. So many other problems in terms of diseases and pests in the crop sector. So dairy sector is always coming to the rescue under all these resource constraints. That's what we normally say at the national level, that gone are the days that dairy farming or dairy sector is playing a role of supplementary sector. We used to say that it is secondary to crop and then it provides supplementary income to the farmers. But it is increasingly becoming a primary occupation for certain set of people. Maybe I am talking to those set of people who are driving their primary livelihood from this sector. So dairy development will enhance their livelihood, food and nutrition security of the population, as well as for the others, for other population. You are providing, you are producing the milk, you are producing the dairy products for the population, thereby deriving livelihood for you, and then you are contributing to the economy. That's the kind of power. And even at the smallholders level, from the producers level, the statistics say that 70 million of the 147 million households, they depend on the dairy for their livelihood. And here also, 75% are once again marginal, small, marginal, even landless people. They, on an average, they rear 2 to 8 animals. That's what the scenario at the ground level. What is the strength of Indian dairy sector? I think you all know. I would like to simply just glance through. The sector is providing, it is experiencing a constant and sustained growth. In spite of limited investment from the public-private sectors, the sector still needs a lot of investment, but even then, with the limited kind of support, it is having a sustained growth. And moreover, the country has a large bovine population. We all know about 50 cattle species breed, 50 cattle breed, and more than 15 buffalo breeds are there in our country. So our country is a mega biodiversity spot. And we all know that we are boasting with the statistic that we are the #1 in milk production in the world at present. And very specifically, the country has the largest buffalo germplasm. Our buffalo germplasms are world class, and we have the largest population. Presently, about 120 countries across the world, they are demanding our Murrah germplasm. Murrah was once upon a time, the original breeding tract is the northern India, Haryana, Punjab, western UP, and eastern Rajasthan. But now you can see Murrah even in Tamil Nadu. You can see Murrah breeds even in Andhra Pradesh, southern region. So that's a kind of a popularity of Murrah germplasm. And we have different kind of production systems. From the producer's point of view, this is very good because we have a diverse production system across the country. So if one system fails at one part of the land, in the other part of the country, some other system is thriving. So this is a kind of a diverse production system the country has. I'm talking about country as a whole. And another superiority of this sector is if you give zero input, it will still give some low input. Even with low input, it will give some moderate input. That's the kind of power. Even with low nutrition status, our cattle and buffalo, they are providing maximum to its capacity, the milk output. Think of providing sufficient nutrition, rather precision dairy farming, we call it in the advanced countries like New Zealand, Australia, even Israel and some other European countries, they are following precision dairy farming. If we follow that kind of technology in our country, we can think of how much output we can get. Even with this kind of technology, low level of penetration of technology, we are number one. And another beauty of this sector is it contributes, the livestock sector as a whole contributes about 28 to 30%, of which 2/3 comes from dairy. That's the power. Dairy sector among the whole livestock sector is always a big brother. See, if you see the value of the whole livestock output in our country, 2/3 comes from dairy sector alone. That's the reason the ministry's name is also named as Ministry of Animal Husbandry and Dairying. I'm talking about center. Now we have a separate ministry called Ministry of Fisheries, Animal Husbandry and Dairying. So even SYL, Ministry of Agriculture also, we are, our department is called Department of Animal Husbandry and Dairying. We all know that animal husbandry includes dairy, but they've always kept dairy as a big brother among the whole subsectors of animal husbandry. That's the power. And another strength of our sector is we have a pretty equitable distribution of livestock resources than when compared to land. See, large tracts of land in our country is held by few number of farmers, large farmers, we call it. They own pretty large number of lands, whereas in case of livestock, almost 80% of the people holds 80% of the animals. It means equitably distributed. So whatever you make a developmental initiative, it is going to percolate to the whole set of people. Coming specifically to the information from the 20th livestock census, the latest livestock census, which was released in 2019. See, we know that livestock population in general has increased to 536 million by registering a growth rate of about 5% or so from 512 million. But specifically coming to the dairy, we have witnessed increase in the female cattle population, comprising both indigenous and crossbred. The good news is that we are increasing the female cattle population, and at the same time, among the female cattle population, the animals in milk, that is also increasing. This is because of the good work being done by the field veterinarians, the development officials, even some of the R&D institutions helping them to see that majority of the animals are in milking conditions. Very specifically, the crossbred female cattle has experienced about 40% increase over the last census period. Even indigenous cattle, female cattle is also increasing by 10%. In general, number of milk animal has gone by 6%. That is what we say. So this is a kind of very, very promising scenario which we have witnessed in the last census. Even quickly, if you see the composition of Indian livestock among the whole 536 million livestock numbers is dominated by cattle. About 36% of the whole livestock, Indian livestock, are cattle, followed by buffalo. If you talk of large ruminants, if you talk of small ruminants, of course, we are still dominated by goat, followed by sheep. In fact, specifically speaking, if you talk of Tamil Nadu, the cattle population has increased. Buffalo population has also seen marginal increase. Sheep population has declined. Goat population has increased. That is information with respect to goat. Compared to buffalo population, cattle population has increased little bit high in Tamil Nadu. So that's the situation. If you see the livestock population overall, I wish to say that cattle population is on the decline over a period of, let us say, 2007 to 2019. Cattle population has gone down, but in the last 5 years, it has seen increase. Buffalo, of course, has seen increase, and mainly goat population has increased countrywide very high. Even in Tamil Nadu also, goat population has increased very high compared to sheep population. Sheep population has faced negative growth rate. If you see the composition of Indian cattle, we are still dominated by non-descript cattle. 60% of the cattle are still non-descript. Our crossbred population is 20%. It is only 20%. Even after close to 5 decades of our artificial insemination program, we are slowly increasing in crossbreeding population. But over a 5 years period, for every 5 years period, we are seeing significant increase, but still we are dominated by non-ND cattle. But still, we are number 2 in the world in terms of cattle population. And I told you, it constitutes about 36% of the total livestock. This is what the trend with respect to the cattle specifically. Though still indigenous cattle population is higher than the crossbred cattle, but the share of indigenous cattle is falling, which is compensated by increase in the share of crossbred cattle. Currently, about 26.5% of the cattle are all crossbred cattle. Similar picture with respect to buffalo. Still, we have 43% of ND, but the situation with respect to, buffalo is little encouraging because the grading of indigenous buffalo is happening little encouragingly. We are seeing an encouraging sign. Especially, there are lots of artificial insemination happening in the state of Punjab, Haryana, and Western UP. That's the reason our indigenous buffalo populations are graded very in a faster growth rate. We all know that Indian buffaloes are almost number one in the world, and we possess more than 50%. Exactly speaking, 56.7% of the world buffaloes are in India. Okay. And specifically coming to the livestock systems, the livestock system, that is the production systems are changing. Gone are the days that we are only doing subsistence dairy farming. Now, more and more of consolidation of dairy farmings are happening because of ever increasing demand for milk. The reason we all know that it is because of change in demographics. There is always a demand, and that is also increasing because of the population growth as well as urbanization. The second major factor is general economic development. Country is growing. Our country is one of the fastest developing economy. As a result, there is a consumption pattern. There's a change in consumption pattern. People start consuming more and more of livestock products, more specifically dairy products. And on the other side, there are also better technologies coming up, starting from production, processing, marketing. Everywhere people are coming out with better technologies. The scientific community is providing the better species, high-yielding species. They are always in the pursuit of increasing the productivity through breeding, feeding, and housing management technologies. And the industry is they are marching fast in using the best processing facilities, and of course new entrepreneurs, new ideas, and so many other technologies which are coming up in taking the products to the consumers. That is a lot of revolution happening in the marketing technologies. So all these things are contributing to the change of livestock systems from, let us say, smallholder production systems to more and more of large organized production systems. I think we are all witnessing some of the spots in India, more specifically in Tamil Nadu also, more and more of bigger organized commercial dairy farms are coming up. These are the smallholder dairies where normally the women members in the rural area, they rear 1 or 2, 3, the ND or indigenous cow, whereas in commercial dairies, normally you see under intensive system of farming, you see either crossbreds, maybe of a Jersey cross or HF cross, depending on the climatic situations, or buffaloes, if there is a demand or if there is a handling capacity. So like that, we are seeing consolidation. And we are also seeing, since post-independence, we are seeing the technology is always pushing the milk production going up every passing year. We know that the current data says that we are producing close to 200 million tons. We are contributing to about 22% of the world milk. So that's a kind of power. And the Indian dairy sector has seen a glorious journey. It made a glorious journey. It is growing faster than any other agriculture subsector. We are growing faster than horticulture sector. We are growing faster than crop sector, be it grains, cereals, pulses, oilseed. We are growing faster. And by the next year, this subsector is likely to produce more than half of the total agricultural output. That's a prediction. The agricultural output is about 25 lakh crore countrywide. The dairy alone is going to contribute half of the GDP, agriculture GDP. And, in fact, even if you compare the world, the growth rate of dairy sector in the world compared to India, there also we are doing better. See, if you see the average growth rate of dairy sector in the world, it is 1.3, whereas in India it is 4.2. Suppose years ago, 4 decades ago, India's milk production was only 1/3 of the US, 1/8 of the European Union. Now we are twice the US. We are producing twice US and 25% more than EU. And there is another interesting fact that the value of milk alone is more than the total value of all grains and pulses. This is an information from economic survey. That is a high value nature of milk. Today every fifth rupee generated in farm sector comes from milk. That is 1/5 of the revenue is coming from milk. That's the point. And if you see the share of milk, from where these milks are coming, it is mainly driven by buffalo. Countrywide, if you see, 49% is contributed by buffalo, 27% is contributed by crossbred cow. So they are the powerhouse of milk yield in our country. This is some more subdivision of the same. The major share among buffaloes. Once again, indigenous buffalo, they are contributing 35. ND 14. Together, I told you, together it is 49. If you break it up, indigenous 35, ND 14. Similarly, crossbred is 27. See here, the crossbred is 26. I think it is 17, 18. If you are seeing the next year, 19, 20 year, the crossbred share is also increasing. So basically, buffaloes and crossbred cow, they are the powerhouse. This is another finding which is done by another agency, the PricewaterhouseCoopers, the consulting firm. They have done a research. It says that 36% of the buffalo, they contribute 55% of the total milk yield overall. And see, once again, I am saying cattle is witnessing from 1950 to latest census till last year with the available data. If you can see, cattle has seen 24% increase. Buffalo is making 153% increase. Of course, in southern region, we are still dominated by cattle more than buffalo. Buffalo population is slowly increasing. We are introducing more and more of buffaloes into southern India, especially if you see the state of Andhra Pradesh and Telangana, for example. Even some portion of some area of northern Karnataka, you can see a lot of buffalo farming coming up in a big number, because here there is in fact preference for buffalo milk. Is a preference for buffalo milk. And if you specifically see the percentage share in milk production by major states, it is mainly contributed by Uttar Pradesh, Rajasthan, Gujarat. These are the contribution. And if you see Tamil Nadu, where are we placed? We are contributing about 4%. 4% in the total milk yield is contributed by Tamil Nadu. Though we are producing about, I think, close to 233 lakhs or something, but we are contributing about 4%. And this is another kind of very encouraging situation. If you look at the per capita milk availability, it is always on the rise. Recommended per capita milk is 280 gram per day, recommended by ICMR recommendation, whereas India has already crossed. On an average, India's per capita milk availability is 394. If you see, you can see this picture, you can understand where are we placed. We are placed. We are the per capita availability in Tamil Nadu is 322. In fact, in southern region, Andhra Pradesh is leading. 623 gram per day is being consumed by this is availability for AP region. Of course, the topmost state is Punjab, followed by Haryana, then Rajasthan. Basically, these are the national milk grid region. Even Operation Flood phase also, this region were classified as national milk grid. They were producing a lot and then supplying to national capital region, Delhi. But in the southern region, we are not. We are above the per capita recommendation, but still we are below the national average, because national average is 394, we are 322. So that's the kind of scenario. But if you see our per capita availability when compared to the world countries, where are we placed? We are only 394, but look at some of the countries, how much is available per person. It is the topmost dairy country, I think you all know, New Zealand, closely followed by Australia, US, Canada. See, all these Western world, developed countries, these countries are the dairy, the major powerhouse. This world milk production is about 852 million ton. I think I think if you see the 2020 information, it is around 80 million ton, I believe. So globally, it is contributed, 81% is contributed by cattle, because worldwide, if you see everywhere, dairy cattle are there. But this is not possible, without facing these challenges. Our country has all these challenges, which all of us are battling in our own capacity. We are still, home to a lot of ND population with low productivity. We have a perennial shortage of feed and fodder. We have a lot of reproductive disease problems in the dairy animals, late sexual maturity, wide gap between the availability and demand of the bull, indiscriminate breeding, infertility, poor health status, zoonotic diseases, and there are so many other things. Even the technology is getting diffused in a very, very low manner. So I am just giving some of the major concern as of now to take the value chain to a still greater level. Number one is low milk productivity. This is a concern. You see our milk yield per animal per year, and you see the topmost player, USA, how much, almost 8 times higher than our productivity. But we are number one in total milk production. In terms of productivity, we have a long way to go. We are ranking 93. Number two is low maturity of Indian buffalo. That's the kind of concern. If you see, we know that the buffaloes are contributing maximum, but still, there is a disturbance in audio. Am I audible, sir? Hello?
Disturbance from Suresh.
You can mute everybody.
Yeah, I request
Suresh Magar, just mute your audio.
Yeah, thank you. The second major concern is low maturity of Indian buffalo. We know the problem of buffalo, in spite of buffalo being a major contributor, but still the buffalo comes to, the puberty at a very late age in our country, which is a major concern. If you can reduce that, for which a lot of research going on in our country. So if you can reduce that, we are still to reap, we are likely to double the milk output from buffalo alone. That's a major concern. This is a researchable problem. And third important problem is we have lots of breedable population, but it is not even calving once. So breedable but not calved even once. That's a concern. You can see the breedable population in the bigger pie chart with respect to, the buffalo. We have, let us say, 56 million breedable population, almost like equal amount in the crossbred cattle also. But still, 7% in buffalo and about 6% in crossbred cattle, they are not even calving once. So if you can achieve, Stephen, better than what it is now, I think we are likely to increase the milk availability in a very big manner. Number 4, missing heat is a concern everywhere. This is a message for the veterinarians actually. See, every heat is very important, as we all know. Every missed heat is a missed opportunity. I have made a small, a calculation here. If you miss a heat, it will delay the calving by one cycle. That is 21 days. That is 21 days of milk is gone. If we assume that the animal is producing 5 liters per day, we are losing 105 liters per cycle, which comes to about 4,000 rupees. Added to that is a maintenance cost, which is about 2,000. So totally, if you miss a heat, you are losing about 6,000 rupees. That's a very simple calculation. You can think of missing heat problem for the country as a whole in terms of breedable population. Of course, we are also doing a lot of artificial insemination, or artificial insemination is also increasing nationwide, but still insufficient. But at least the state of Tamil Nadu is better. See, here I am showing the statewide AI coverage. We are covering about 75% of the population. In fact, the breedable population we are covering to great extent, but there are many other states who are faring very, very badly in this regard. So, see, we all know the consumption rate of AI also. Even if you inseminate, the consumption rate is hardly 35% due to so many factors. The vaccine quality, cold chain facility, the iatrogenic factor like the inability of the doctors to put to inseminate at the right spot and right time. So these are all iatrogenic factors, we call it. So because of all these things, consumption rate is only 35. In the advanced countries, they have better technology to find out the mid-heat time, and also the location to deposit semen. during artificial insemination. They have even devices. We are yet to, to fabricate one for the Indian condition. So because of all these things, still it is insufficient. Though we are doing better countrywide, but still we have a long way to go because developed countries are having the success rate more than double, almost double the time of what India is having. The fifth major concern is feed and fodder shortage. See, the available research says that we are having huge shortage in terms of availability. Demand is there, but it is not available. See, you see the dry fodder, green fodder, and particularly concentrate. That's why, see, the animal feed industry is whatever we produce, it is still insufficient. You all know very well that any animal feed manufacturer will see millions in very, very short period of time. Why? Because there is always a great demand. There is always a great demand. So feed industry is still a very, very nascent industry, and whatever feed you produce, there are going to be buyers. And this is because of all these reasons that area under fodder cultivation is hardly, it is only 4% of the, just 2 decades back, it was 6%. 6% of the land was devoted to fodder cultivation. That land is declining now. It is only 4% as of now. So we need to have a lot of technology here, like precision animal feeding I was telling. Precision animal feeding, which is being followed in Israel, New Zealand and all. They measure the body conformation, their metabolic rate, thermal screening kind of thing. Then the feed is computerized. The feed is measured with the help of computers, and then that feed is released. That's called precision animal feeding. And so many other advanced technologies in feeding practices required. We have a long way to go. Sixth concern is losses due to infertility and diseases. Presently, infertility is a major problem. In case of dairy animals specifically, this is a major loss in the dairy sector. Infertility. See, that's a major problem. More animals are going infertile, and many animals are missing heat, and they are not coming to the calving cycle. Of course, the loss due to diseases are there, but we are more concerned about the dairy cattle, and it says that 46% loss is coming from infertility, which is very alarming. So basically, if you see the last 2 decades or so, where we are seeing a lot of commercial activity happening in dairy sector, specifically with respect to indigenous local cow, we are seeing a lot of growth in the milk yield. Whatever the animals were producing 20 years ago, the local cows are increasing in their yield, maybe because of better technology. The yield of crossbred cow, the growth in the productivity in terms of crossbred cow is stagnant. It's still stagnant. Earlier also we were getting on an average 7 to 8 liters. Now also we are getting. We are yet to make a big jump there also. Buffaloes, of course, the growth is slower. That is a concern. Maybe because of more animals going out of the milking conditions, and more animals are going in dry. Maybe because of the other silent heat problems, the growth in milk yield is not commensurate with the growth in the number of animals. More and more number of animals are coming to, in milking conditions, but then the milk yield is going down. So if you see the return on investment, if you put money in commercial dairy, the return is more than 30%. In case of smallholder dairy, it is always less. So that's the reason several consolidation is happening either through cooperatives or through contract farming or through dedicated arrangement between the producers and the processing plant. So this is another kind of information with respect to cow milk. We are seeing big jump, especially in the country. That's the case with Tamil Nadu also. Buffalo milk production, though increase is happening, it is going little stagnant over in the last 10 years or so. So what could be the strategy in terms of increasing productivity as of now with the researchers? In case of local cow and buffalo, it is selective breeding. In case of crossbred cow, it is inter-seam mating with the high merit bulls. In case of ND cattle buffalo, grading, which is going on. So increased extension is required to get more milk. I was telling the livestock related information and technology reaching the farmers is very, very poor. Right now, only 5% of the farmers are only receiving. So at least to begin with, some of the very easier technologies can be transferred immediately by the public agencies, by the state departments, field veterinarians, as well as even KVK systems of university, like animal management technology, health management technology, input saving technology, nutrient balancing. These are the very simple things at least can be transferred from the production side. So what we can do now to make this sector very, very efficient is we have to go shift our focus from population driven to technology driven. We need better high yielding animals, first of all. And similarly, we need better technology even in processing. Gone are the days with the simple processing. Now we need more and more of sophisticated technology because the market is diversifying. People want beyond liquid milk. So it should be like technology driven, from highly fragmented to organized. I think public agencies, the State Department must try to unite the farmers to create a kind of cooperatives at their own level, maybe a smaller producer groups level, keeping some specific groups of animals, for example. So basically now they are fragmented. We need to organize from subsistence to commercial model. We need more and more of commercial models. Maybe those entrepreneurs who are trying to make a kind of big processing plant or unit, something, they should rope in more and more of the smallholders with the kind of the contract arrangement. We have to change our mindset from dairy farm to an economic unit. It is no more a farm only. We need to see that whatever you put, you have to get something in a profitable manner. So that mindset has to change. And we should not be only a dairy farmer, rather we should be a dairy entrepreneur. Our jobs doesn't stop by producing the milk or milk products alone. We should know where is the market for our products and at what price. So if you see in this line, if you see the processing scenario overall in our country, almost it is similar to Tamil Nadu. Our total milk production is consumed at production point itself. Half of the consumption happens at the production point itself because producers themselves consume, and also they sell it at the local markets, villages and nearby area, and the surplus is transported to the consumption area, that is non-production area. And out of this 52%, if you once again break it up, it is still dominated by unorganized sector. Maybe we are improving in the scenario. Some 25-30 years ago, unorganized sector were handling 80 to 85% of the milk. Now slowly the milk being handled by unorganized sector is reducing, but it is still 70%. Still a lot of hope is there. Scope is there for the cooperative and private sector. Cooperative sector handles about 16%. Private organized sector, I think there may be many people who are listening today at this moment. Private organized sector, they are increasing in number and they are increasing in their capacity, volumes of trade. Some exactly in the late 90s, private organized sectors are less than 2 to 3%. As of now, it is 14%. And things are going to grow still very high. Cooperative sector is almost stagnant. It is hovering around 16%. But private organized sector will supersede cooperative sector. I think already it has superseded, and it will still overtake cooperative sector in the long run. So this is how the processing is placed now. Coming specifically to the milk production in our state, Tamil Nadu, we are producing about 233 lakh liter per day. This is the kind of production which is happening. And the cooperative setup, they procure about 16%, around 37 lakh lakh liter per day is the procurement which is happening. Around 16%. Around 16% is procured by the cooperative setup. And recently in the World Milk Day, we came across, I think, this fact in general about the milk. It is the largest commodity. We are the largest producer, and we know that it is the largest source of protein to the Indians. Even nowadays, from pulses we are not getting protein. It is from milk we are getting the protein, and these are all the facts we have seen. And I wish to say that India is the only country where $1 can fetch 1.5 liters of milk. Nowhere in the world milk is so cheap. Our domestic production is relatively cheap when compared to other countries. With less subsidy, with less support, still our cost of production there is still scope to reduce the cost of production. I am not denying, but even at this point of time, with respect to cost of production as well as the price available for the consumers, it is, you can buy from $1, you can buy 1.5 liters. That is closely about 40 to 42 rupees per liter. This is what is another statistic. The demand for livestock products in general, I'm telling about the whole livestock products, including milk, meat, the demand is always on the rise. Here, if you compare, there was a study which compared the amount of protein which was coming from different food sources for an average Indian consumer, comparing the scenario of 1991 and 2011. See, the share of protein which is coming from cereal is coming down. Cereals, rice, wheat, that is coming down. Whereas the share of protein which is coming from dairy and meat, you can see the last column. The red color one is dairy, the blue color which is bottom is meat. We are interested, of course, about the dairy. So 9.8% of the protein was coming from milk, dairy products in 1991. In 2011, 10.3%. What does it indicate? People are consuming more and more of dairy products. This is also seen from the different rounds of consumption survey. You may be knowing, some of you may be knowing, the Government of India conducts household consumption expenditure survey every 5 years in general. Every 5 to 10 years in general, it repeats. They are doing various kinds of survey. They are also doing household food expenditure. It means a household spending on various kinds of food items. See, this is a job of NSSO, National Sample Survey Organization. Here you are seeing 3 rounds information. Particularly, you can see the second portion, which is of dairy products. The percentage of expenditure on dairy products is constantly rising from 15 to 15.5 to 18.7. It means people are consuming more and more of dairy products. That's the reason we are all doing business and our business is expanding. This is evidenced by the statistics which is available from government source. So what is the need now for the public agency, for the field veterinarians, for all the development officials, you and me, state and center? Our job is not only to transfer the technology to increase the production or to give only the input supply, like what cooperatives are saying. We need to move the focus from production to income. More and more of information is required about market, namely price or demand for the farmer, for the producer. So unless otherwise the farmers know what is the price for their produce, what is the demand for their product, I think they will lose the game, and then we will together lose the game. All of us need to make profit in the whole value chain, from producers to the processors, even to the consumer. Consumer also wants the best product at the best, cheapest rate possible. Producer also should get the maximum share in the consumer rupee. Processor also should make money in the whole business. So basically, we need favorable policies and some of the very important institutions. Of course, the sector responds very, very positively to all these policy drivers of change, we call it. For example, 4 decades ago, there was a milk cooperatives. NDDB came into existence. So that was a pioneer in triggering the white revolution. It was a classical example. It was tried, all of you know, it was tried in Kedah district of Gujarat. Then later on, it was from Anand Milk Union Limited, Anand district. Then it was replicated. The same model was replicated under the umbrella of NDDB across the whole India. Of course, now around 10 states are fairly successful in the cooperative movement. In the southern states also, the state of Karnataka is leading. Tamil Nadu is also, fairly doing well, followed by AP. So everybody has their own state brand, but the action, the modus operandi is similar. In Tamil Nadu it is Avin, it is Andhra, Telangana it is Vijaya, Karnataka it is Nandini, Kerala it is Milma, and so on. Sanchi in case of Madhya Pradesh, and then Paras in case of UP, so on. But that was the beginning. But from the mid-90s, when the country opened up for privatization, liberalization, globalization, private sector was allowed. I think you all know the history better than me. Like Nestle was the first MNC who came into our country, and then they established. At the same time, many Indian majors, they have also entered into this sector. I think in the southern region, Hudson Foods was the first one. They have grown up very, very high. We all know the success story of Hudson. I believe there may be somebody from Hudson also listening to me. So you are the leader, you are the inspirator in the southern region you are followed by so many other players who are also growing very high. And similar success stories were witnessed in rest of the country also. Our adjoining, the other states in the southern zone like Karnataka, Andhra is also doing fine. Godrej has jumped into this kind of liquid milk. They are coming out with their own brand. Jersey, they are also there in all the southern states. This is the model which we all know. Society at village level, union at the district level, federation at the state level. Society collects the milk. They also do some extension service. Union basically does the processing, and the state federation decides the marketing strategy. These are the usual picture. Operation Flood, you all know, it was established in 3 phases. From that point onwards, India has seen revolution in dairy. If you see the business in dairy industry, since mid-90s, the cooperatives were the only one they were dominating the dairy industry. From mid-90s, private players came. I told you the history just now. Nestle, Hudson, Godrej. So everybody has come. Many local brands have come. If you particularly do some of the private dairies, I think some of you may be there now also, like Hudson Agro Products. So they were the number one. I mean, they were the first one to start, and they are number one in Tamil Nadu. They are handling almost 32 lakh liter per day. Close to the total milk handling of the whole state under cooperative system. Now they are handling. That's the kind of reach, and they have the connection. They have the connectivity to more than 6.25 lakh farmers. They have 20 plants. They have many vehicles, and they have their own outlets, and they have come up with so many brands on their own, starting from Arokya, Arun, Ibako, Oyalo, Hudson, all those things. I think you all know this. Then closely followed by Milky Mist Dairy Food in Erode region. I think they are also coming up very fast. Some of the products are having niche in the market, especially Milky Mist Paneer. I would like to say some of the product very specifically that Milky Mist Paneer is having a very, very ever increasing demand. Of course, dairy industry, the one peculiar thing, one major thing which we have seen, though milk is a homogenized product, the different kind of milk products which is coming out is having their own position in the markets. For example, Amul, the main brand, whether nationally or globally, is butter. Amul is famous for butter. Hudson, I would say, as a consumer and as a professor guiding the student research in the dairy markets also, Arun is famous for ice cream. Hudson is famous for ice cream. Milky is famous for paneer. Like that. So it is their own innovation to position some of the products. I believe every dairy farm, every dairy, private dairy which I have listed here, maybe from big to small, everyone will be trying to have USP or to have a market leadership position in their own product. There are so many things I have listed here. There are smaller, indigenous cow milk handling dairies. Maybe like I'm quoting one such like Sri Mahalakshmi Dairy Coimbatore. They are famous for ghee. Their brand name is Aroma. They are famous for ghee. Like that. Even till recently, Tirumala was one of the popular brand. Now I think it is taken over by Lactalis India. The Lactalis also, that is a French-based company. It's a big MNC, and they are trying to work with the national brands, private brands, and they are also accusing some of the popular dairies in our country, in our region. I think we all know. I know Dr. Bhaskar Sethod is listening to me. Sir is into these kind of efforts. I think Tirumala is a part of Lactalis. Like that, there are so many private dairies. I have listed few. There are many, several, almost all regions, depending on their market size, they are all trying to penetrate particular segment and trying to grow in size. Working models, they are working models if you see in their value chain. Almost most of them are following the lines of cooperatives, I believe. So they also have collection centers, and then they go and receive it. And some have contract arrangements from the producers, and some also receive from the bulk suppliers, aggregators. So this is how they operate in terms of procurement. In terms of pricing, mostly they go with the benchmark pricing from Avin for liquid milk. But for other products, they have their own pricing mechanism, because they are creating specialized demand for their specific products. So people are ready to buy, so they have a pricing system for their niche products. Payment, of course, is variable, maybe weekly, fortnightly, monthly. Even as a consumer, you can also have the arrangement of the daily supply or weekday supply or thrice a week supply and so on. There are so many mechanisms here which is happening in payment system and other services. Some of the companies are providing the input services, the veterinary services, other input services from company, and in other cases, I think farmers have to see for themselves. There is another study which I want to place here. There is a group, market research group, a consulting firm placed at Noida, UP, in the national capital region of Delhi. There is a group called IMARC. They say that Tamil Nadu dairy market is it is going to grow in the next 5 years at the rate of 15.7%. That is a forecast they have done. By seeing the past trend, they have forecasted that the Tamil Nadu dairy market is going to grow in the next 5 years about 15.7%. And basically, they have divided the dairy market into 18 segments, starting from liquid milk to flavored milk to infant food and the malt-based beverages. There are many. I think they have separated the whole dairy market into 18 segments, from up to infant food, from liquid milk to infant food. There are so many, formulations which is coming from each the private dairies in our state presently. And there is a newer segment coming up. I think this also you may be thinking. Many of the private dairy owners, processors, you may be thinking. In the recent phenomena of the last 4 or 5 years, there is an emerging market for the liquid milk sector, particularly for organic milk or A2 milk. There are so many brands here. I have listed few across country. There are some organic milk brands I have given here. Basically from the states of Maharashtra, Telangana, Andhra Pradesh, I have given. And A2 milk, I am showing a picture here. Rightmove, you can see, you can get this kind of A2 milk in Chennai region. Rightmove. There is another group coming up. They are slowly increasing the business called Annam Dairy. I think they are handling even other food products also, but basically they are covering the whole Chennai city and they are increasing in their share. I think as a customer, as a resident of Hyderabad from 2013, I have seen the first A2 milk in Hyderabad region. I am living in an apartment where 1,800 families are there. In 2015, I have seen only 2 brands. Now, in my own apartment, I am seeing 7 brands. Recently, we have conducted a study on A2 milk marketing in Hyderabad city. See, there are 12 brands which are operating in Hyderabad. I think the same situation may be there in Chennai, maybe in Coimbatore, I do not know. Chennai definitely to have. And moreover, the fact is that there is no certification mechanism. There is no certification mechanism as of now from any government agency. But even then, there is a demand catching up from the consumers towards A2 milk, because they believe that consuming A2 milk cures several health ailments. It is good for the health. And scientifically, we all know that A1 form of beta carotene comes from the milk of crossbred cow, and the A2 form of beta casein comes from indigenous cow breeds. So in that sense, that much is known. See, about the nutritive value, we are still undecided. As a scientist, we have not yet come to the conclusion that which is superior or which is inferior, which is claimed by the people, the industry actually. Not only in India, elsewhere also there is a market for A2. There are equal number of literatures available telling the superiority of A2 over A1, and also telling that both A1 and A2 are equal. There are equal number of literatures. But then in India, at least we are happy that to catch up the demand for A2 milk, the milk production from indigenous cows are given importance because there is a demand, and there are also, the indigenous cow are gaining popularity. Even from the government level also, there is increased importance towards conserving the indigenous cattle as well as multiplying the indigenous cattle. There are so many schemes which have come. See, the Government of India scheme is called now Rashtriya Gokul Mission. It is not simply called as National Livestock Mission. It is now called the Rashtriya Gokul Mission, under which there are so many initiatives are going on at the center level. In the southern region, you may be knowing that in Nellore there is a national breeding center, Kamadhenu breeding center. There is one such big farm being built up to conserve Nellore breed. Similarly, Tamil Nadu also, I think you know, several such wonderful breeds are there, starting from Kangayam, Umblacheri, so many things. Though the yield is low, but there is a market. You know that the milk price is more than double than the normal milk, liquid milk which we are handling. There are some of the brands which I have shown, because there is no certification agency as of now for A2. So people are branding it as cow milk. People are branding it as cow milk or organic milk. So no sufficient data to confirm that whether A2 is superior or A1 is bad. Even if you believe that A2 is good, that's what I was telling. We have our Indian germ blossoms. Our cattle, buffalo, sheep, goat milk they are all A2. There is no harm to brand goat milk, sheep milk, even camel milk, cow milk in our country. There is nothing. There is no stoppage. But there is no guideline which has come for the certification that it is an A2 milk or A1 milk. But however, irrespective of all these market things which is happening, which we are witnessing, our breeding policy will be to improve the indigenous breed, because the indigenous cattle, indigenous buffalo population is still in a very large number. So for another 4-5 decades, we will continue the same breeding policy with, of course, improvement in the targets, artificial insemination. So crossbreeding has to continue for some more years to convert the ND and low yielding animals. Finally, I would like to say that there is also a scheme, I think some of you may be knowing. There is a scheme called Dairy Entrepreneurship Development Scheme. Now this big scheme is now subsumed under Animal Husbandry Infrastructure Development Fund. You might have heard from 2017-18 budget and 18-19 budget of Government of India. Our Finance Minister, you must have seen, she made an announcement that they are allocating 10,000 crore towards this Animal Husbandry Infrastructure Development Fund. Basically, this is to promote entrepreneurship in dairy. Dairy Entrepreneurship Development Scheme is one such program, which was there earlier also, but after this announcement, this is subsumed under this Animal Husbandry Infrastructure Development Fund. So all institutions, all financial institutions can do, they will do finance. They can get refinance from NABARD because the scheme is given to NABARD. Eligible beneficiaries are like farmers, individual entrepreneurs, NGO, company, cooperatives, maybe society, union, federation. Anybody can apply directly to the bank, and even any other unorganized sector also can do. This is a fact sheet you are seeing. How to apply? Directly you can apply to bank. See, there are subsidy components in this. So they will decide according to the category. All commercial banks, regional rural banks, state cooperative banks, and these institutions can finance it. What are the objectives here? Mainly to generate self-employment, to provide infrastructure to the dairy sector, set up modern dairy farms, encourage heifer calf rearing particularly, and upgrade traditional technology to handle milk on a higher scale, commercial scale, any value addition activity. All these things are covered under this Dairy Entrepreneurship Development Scheme. The pattern of assistance go like this. Entrepreneur has to contribute only 10% of the project. Under the scheme, you will get 25% of the subsidy. In case of SC/ST, 33% subsidy. The remaining portion will be given by bank as a loan. This is a structure of this Dairy Entrepreneurship Development Scheme of Government of India under NABARD. Public, the doctors working under the State Animal Husbandry Department, they can assist in this regard for approaching the bank. They can help the entrepreneurs at various levels to approach the bank to get assistance under this. What are the purpose for which the scheme is lending money or giving subsidy? Establishment of small dairy units. This is one such purpose. Up to 2 to 10 animals you can buy for 7 lakh. 7 lakh is the amount. Rearing of heifer calves, 9.7 lakh. For 20 units, they are giving 9.7 lakh. Very specifically 9.7 lakh. I don't know the calculation, but this is what they say. They give about 9.7. Vermicompost rate, purchase of milking machine, 20 lakh they give. Dairy processing equipment, 13.2 lakh. Once again, I don't know the calculation. Processing equipment, indigenous dairy products manufacture, all those things. Transportation facility, 26.5 lakh they give. Insulated containers. Cold storage facility, bigger way, 33 lakh they give. There is a business opportunity. Private veterinary clinic, that is also covered under this Dairy Entrepreneurship Development Scheme. If you are establishing a mobile veterinary clinic, 2.6 lakh, and if you have a stationary veterinary hospital clinic, it is 3 lakh. Then for dairy outlet, milk parlor, they give 3 lakh. So these are all the provision under which the dairy, the entrepreneurship development scheme extends the money. With all these things, I would sum up whatever you know it already, that with all these facts, every consumer knows, you and me definitely know, being a producer, processor, milk is the best food. Is the best food, full of many nutraceutical or very, very active molecules are there with so many health attributes. All the milk components are good for health. Both vegetarian and non-vegetarian consumes milk. That's the beauty. Though it is an animal protein source, but both vegetarian and non-vegetarian drinks milk. That's a very specialty of milk as a commodity. And very specifically, I would like to mention here, there is a growing market for A2 milk, especially in urban areas. Though scientifically, nutritional composition wise, they are similar. A1 and A2 are similar. And I also say wherever I go that let us promote buffalo milk as a healthy milk, because buffalo milk has so many other nutrients than cow milk. We, as a South Indian mostly, specifically as a Tamilian, we prefer actually cow milk. Buffalo milk we don't prefer, but then that mindset is slowly changing. Because buffalo milk has high protein. You all know the nutritional composition of buffalo milk. It has high protein, high calcium, low cholesterol, low fat. Everywhere it is good. See, North Indians, for example, they consume mostly buffalo milk, only buffalo milk. Because I studied in Karnal, whenever we make a field visit, they give milk in such a big tumbler, such a big glass. Glass may have 400 ml milk, 350 to 400 ml milk. In fact, in those days when I drink full cup of milk, I used to feel my stomach upset. So that's the kind of quantum of milk they drink. That's the reason their per capita consumption is quite high, very, very high. 3 to 4 times higher than what Tamil average Tamilian consumes. That's the kind of thing, because it is because of the popularity of buffalo milk. And one more thing, A2 milk, that is A2 buffalo milk. A2 milk is a buffalo milk. It has an export potential. It has an export potential. There are markets waiting to buy our A2 milk from buffalo. On the other side, I also wish to say that we have to harness the full potential of non-bovine also. Goat milk, sheep milk, donkey milk. For that also there are very smaller profitable value chains emerging in other parts of the country. Of course, in Tamil Nadu, southern region, it is very little. But then in the other region, especially in the state of Uttar Pradesh and Rajasthan, goat milk is marketed. Camel milk is marketed in Rajasthan, and that milk comes to Delhi. Camel milk is available. Maybe the scale of operation is very low, but all are A2. All are A2. And we should keep recommending the use of milk as a baby food. Currently, I think some of you are producing the baby food also as one of the basket in your thing, but that there is also still scope. We can promote that it can be consumed for initial 1,000 days as a part of our very authenticated advertisement for targeting those things. So with this thing, I just thank once again all of you for patient listening. I am once again repeating that whatever I spoke, some of them may not be relevant to some of you. I tried my level best to address this topic.
Thank you, sir.
Thank you, sir.
Thank you.